Hello everyone and welcome back to another DMO guide video, and today we are covering one of the very basic things in DMO, which is cloning. So yeah, this is my cloning guide. Again, one of the very basic things, and yeah, I've actually decided to make a video about it because I think there's actually a lot of things to cover, there's a lot of nuance to it and whatnot, right? So yeah, this is gonna be my cloning guide. Again, very basic thing. And yeah, so probably let's start with the very basics, and it is what is cloning. So when you look at the Digimon, there's like a number here out of 57, out of 75. Usually it's 0, but this is basically the amount of clone, and maximum of 75, and it is basically your max clone. As you can see, attack, we have the 8, which is the amount of attack I'm getting from cloning. So there's actually 5 stats that you can clone, and maximum is 15 of each. There it is. The 5 stats are attack, critical, HP, block, and evasion. You can clone each one of them up to 15, and yeah, so maximum of 75. Now you can start cloning any of them except HB. You need to basically do it on a transcendent Digimon. I already covered transcendence, so you can check that video, but yeah, you can only clone HB after you have transcendence your Digimon, and all of them you can just clone them at any time. So basically, as I said, clone is an increase to stats, basically from a certain percentage of your base stats. So we're gonna look in the wiki page here about DigiClone. I will leave the link to this page in the description. It's actually very helpful, and we can take a look at the perfect clone table. This is the amount of extra stats you get at perfect clone. So for example, in attack, perfect clone 15 attack will give you 144% of your base attack. So looking at my OX, my base attack is 5,689, and you can see at the clone I'm getting 8,192. So let's actually check that. You can see here it's 5689, actually 144% of the 568, and as you can see, the exact same number. Now that is only at perfect clone, and that is because clones is basically randomized. Now if you don't know, this is where you clone your Digimon, because clone is basically randomized. So if I put a normal clone, you can see here it's a random, it's a success ability. It's basically the amount you get after you've cloned, as you can see, and that is a percentage of your base HB, sorry, of your base stats, as you can see. So it is randomized, right? Of course, depending on the type of the clone, but more on that later. Keep in mind that attack clone will also affect your skill damage. As you can see, the skill have 138, which is the amount you get from the clone. Of course, it's a small amount because this is a rookie, so of course weaker Digimon gets less from the clone. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, so how to actually clone? So there's actually a couple of levels from 1 up to 15, and each level will require a certain item, and it is basically a clone item. So for 1 up to 3 it uses clone D, and from 4 up to 6 clone C, 7 up to 9 clone B, and 10 to 12 clone A, and finally from 13 to finally 15 uses clone S. And of course each clone have a success chance. You can see clone D have a 90% chance. At C it gets down to 50, then 25%, and then goes down to 18 and 15%. And also keep in mind that when you fail the clone, I think above level 3, I guess it's mostly noticeable. At B clone it will go down, sometimes it doesn't, but most at clone B, basically most times when it fails it will go down. So this is why we need the item called backup disc, which basically prevents the clone from going down. Now there's actually a couple of different types of clones I want to cover. First is the normal clone, which this is basically the normal one with its percent chance and whatever, everything we know, everything we covered, it is basically the clone, the normal DigiClone, right? Then we have the reinforced DigiClone, and this DigiClone basically the value is not random. It will always give you the highest amount of increase, but it's random, so it can fail, but if it's success, you will always have the maximum value. Then we have the Mega DigiClone, which as you can see it have 100% success chance, but the value is random. Then we have the best clone, which is the Mega Reinforced, which have 100% success chance, and it is 100% chance to be the highest value. Also, I've noticed this looks weird. Anyway, yeah, Mega DigiClone, Mega Reinforced DigiClone is basically the best clone in the game, and it is the hardest to get. So how to get each type of clone? We can look at the wiki, and they actually have some items, some ways to obtain the clones, but some of them are outdated. So let me explain. So for backup disk, holy artifacts, that is outdated, doesn't exist. Actually, holy artifact doesn't exist. Mega clone and giga clone exist, but they are rare. Crack and super crack does not exist, and these items exist, but they are not efficient. So for backup disk, the best way to obtain backup disk is Colosseum is one of the best, if not the best ways to acquire backup disks. One weekly voucher will give you 3 backup disks, and the other way is from Gankumon Dungeons. That NPC right there on Wednesday. We're gonna hop into the wiki again, and yeah, you can see on Wednesday will give you the Gankumon training box, the backup disk, which can give you from 1 up to 10 backup disk. Of course, you need to be lucky to get the lucky 10 backup, but it's usually 1 up to 5 and 10 if you are lucky. I would not recommend really wasting Gankumon training on backup disk, mainly because on Saturdays, yeah, Saturday you get clones. As you can see, it can give you one of these items, and it's actually really good. It's one of the few, if not the only way to get Mega Reinforced DigiClone, and of course it's very rare to get. Like, you would be wasting some weeks without getting it, but everything else is good. You can see DigiClone random box, DigiClone set box, which will give you 1 normal clone of each, then the Mega Clone Cube, which will give you, it's basic, I think it's random amount of Mega Clones, and the Mega Clone set box, which 1 of each Mega Clone, which is actually really good, and then the Reinforced DigiClone Cube, which will give you 1 random Reinforced DigiClone. So this is basically the best way to get clone item. Of course, there's other ways to get the clone item, as you can see written from the wiki, but some of them are a bit outdated or not recommended. Like, I would not recommend wasting DigiClone clones. You can also buy them from players, and yeah, basically this is how to obtain clone. And backup disk, as I said, Colosseum is the best way, but you can also get them from Chimeramon Dungeon and Datamon Dungeon, and it is the best way to get tradable clones. The one you get from Colosseum and Gankumon are not tradable, or of course you can get backup disk from the cash shop. There is also reset capsule and reset capsule A, which what they do, basically they reset the clone. You just, maybe you are doing perfect cloning in Digimon, and then you ended up not getting the maximum value, then you can reset the clone. There is a reset capsule. You can also get it from the Colosseum, and reset capsules A will basically reset all of it. This will only reset 1. This will reset the whole thing, which I don't know if you would use that, but yeah, just be careful to not accidentally use the reset capsule A. And yeah, alright, so we'll be cloning our Hackmon, because why not? And yeah, let's do a little bit of a demonstration. So yeah, if I put a normal clone, this is actually a reinforced clone. You can see the access ability is from 106 to 106. If I would put a normal one, which I don't have, if I put a mega one, you actually can't click on the mega, you have to insert it yourself. As you can see, it will be random. So let's actually use the reinforced B, since I have 71 of it, and let's of course add a backup disk. There will also be a fee of 1 when you use mega and reinforced. When you use normal clone, it will be higher. I think it would be like 60 mega or something, or 50. So it can be expensive, but not that much. So let's use this. Let's see. Now there's also cards to pick. It doesn't really matter what card you pick, it's random. Like, there is no right and wrong cards. It's basically a visual thing. So as you can see, the success chance is 25%. So I have filled twice. This is the 3rd time we have filled again. So the next one should be a success, I hope. Nope, 25% chance and failing 4 times in a row. That is brilliant. Of course, I can just, use Mega Clone, which will have 100% success chance. So when I'm doing that, actually, don't use backup. It's pointless. Of course, I will do that. All success, and it's 102, so it's not perfect. So you can now use the reset capsule. You click that tag, reset capsule, and we are back to 8. And we try again, please. Still 5 times in a row. That is cloning for you. Of course, this is why Mega Reinforced is so good, because it's have 100% success chance. And okay, 6 times in a row on a 25% chance. Now usually clone B is actually pretty easy. It's one of the easier clones to finish. There we go, finally done with clone B. Or are we? No. Oh yeah, now we are to the A era, and A have, yeah, 18% chance success, so it's even worse. So yeah, we only have 39, so I don't want to use a lot of A's. Okay, now that is lucky. Now we only have 2 A's left. Now, here's the tip when cloning. Reinforces and mega reinforce and all that. Cloning attack. Something I actually wanted to mention is cloning attack or perfect cloning attack is actually easier than critical, because as you can see, critical have a lot of percentage and points, right? Like 86.68 or to 91.33. It is always recommended to use the reinforces on critical instead of attack, because attack it's a flat number, so it's easier to perfect clone. Critical and evasion always use reinforces and mega reinforces if you have that. Now something to also mention about critical, if you are using normal clone, don't always go for the absolute best, right? Try as much as you can to have like mid to high rolls, because critical can be really difficult to perfect clone with normal clones, so keep that in mind. Now in terms of attack and basically what Digimon to perfect clone, because perfect cloning is actually pretty expensive. Like I have a lot of like mega reinforcers and all that saved up, but if you don't have that and you are like little scarce on resources, always perfect clone the Digimon that you are going to main. So if you have like a temporary Digimon, for example, like an Omegamon's Word or something, I would not recommend perfect cloning that, since it's not a very good Digimon. But something like an AOX, for example, definitely perfect clone that. Critical and attack are the most important stats to perfect clone. Also HB. Now block and evasion are a little bit different. Block is okay in AOX, but it's not it's definitely needed. You need at least 80-85% on an AOX to tank Colosseum, and evasion is something that you can completely ignore on AOX. Evasion is the least one you should go and try and clone, but attack, critical, and HB are the most important stats to clone first. Always go for attack and critical and HB. HB, you might get away with it depending on your Digimon and what content you're doing, but attack and critical are the most basics, the most substantial clones that you should be going for. So we are at 161. You can see we're getting 125. Let's actually see how close we are to perfect cloning. So we can see the perfect clone here on critical 720%, and 151 is a perfect clone, and we are getting 125. So we are actually missing about 25% out of the perfect clone. But because I already have 161%, I'm good. Now let's talk about the amount of critical you need. So for an endgame Digimon, for like an AOX for example, you need 180 plus to 200 or above. That is a decent number. If you are using a temporary Digimon, 150, 140% even might be good. So this is a Gismon, right? I don't need more than 160%, because I don't think I will be doing something like a Colosseum or any of the endgame dungeons with it. I basically just using it for fun, right? It's a BM, it's a very weak Digimon. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not a great Digimon either. So this is basically a Digimon that I'm using for fun. So yeah, I can get away. 161% is actually pretty good on it, and it's still 106, and it's 125 size. So yeah, it's definitely gonna depend on the Digimon's base clone, because some Digimon have a pretty low base clone, like this guy. This guy have a decent base clone, while something like an AOX have a somewhat of a lower side on the base critical. I keep saying base clone, I mean base critical. Some Digimon have it high, so Digimons with high base critical you can get away with slightly less than perfect, while Digimons with a low base critical you need to have a very high number in cloning. Now in terms of attack, I would always recommend perfect cloning attack on AOX. Once again, on temporary Digimons, always aim for like a mid to high rules. Sometimes when you get low rules, at least in the lower levels of the DigiClone, like on like 1 to 6 for example, right, from 1 to 6 where you are using C clone, this is where I would recommend perfecting that, and then maybe to in B get to aim to high rolls, and then from A to S you can just stream roll it, go random rolls if you want, because this is where you can actually like reset it if you want to clone that. But from 1 to 6, this is where I would recommend high perfect cloning, because it's easier, and then from that you can, you know, do it less. But yeah, that is cloning guide. I hope I didn't miss anything, and with that, If you have any questions, leave it down in the comments. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe for more DMO content. And I will see you all in the next video.